I'd like to call to order the September 8th, 2022 Board of Adjustment meeting. Could I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Dolly.
Here.
Kays.
Here.
Culhane.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
Aletsky.
Present.
Hanson.
Here.
And Ford and Spire are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Full board.
Third item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 18th meeting. Could I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved, Culhane.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Fourth item on the agenda is our regular agenda. It's board consideration of a conditional use for a commercial kennel on 14th Avenue. Brandy, will you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. And just for the record, too, with the 7 members on the board, there needs to be 5 yes votes for a conditional use and a variance. So, with that, what we are looking at here today is the request for a conditional use for a commercial kennel at the location of 609 14th Avenue Southeast. Let's turn on the zoning here. So to give you an idea of vicinity or proximity, the building is not shown on the GIS, but the foundation had existed previously. The building was constructed last year or the year before, honestly. I'm not sure. But it is in the I-1 light industrial district, and so a commercial kennel is a conditional use request. And if we go to the application itself, they are proposing some outdoor kennel space where it'll be completely fenced and enclosed. They do plan on paving required parking and access and loading areas. And let me zoom into this drawing so you can see the site plan that is proposed.
Hey, Brandy, is there a way to share on Teams?
Yes, I thought that it would have automatically. Sorry about that. Can you see that now?
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
All right, thanks. But with that, I will stand by for questions from the board.
All right. Thank you, Brandy. With a commercial kennel, can you just fill us in on what animals are allowed at a commercial kennel? I mean, is it horses? Is it dogs? Is it cats? Or, I mean, is there a...
So this particular application and business proposal is for a doggy daycare. And so there is the letter from the applicant of what they are proposing. And honestly, I guess we can look at the definition.
No, and you don't need to do that. I just kind of wanted it on record of what this kennel was for, just so that everyone knew that we weren't trying to squeeze, large animals into this lot. My next question I have is, was there any notification back from any adjacent landowners when we sent out notices?
We did receive a couple inquiries, but just had general questions about what was being proposed.
Okay. This item will have a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing now. If there is anyone that wishes to come up to the mic and state your name for the record and then speak on behalf or against this item, please feel free to do so.
And here is the definition. I'll just point this out, that it is for dogs or cats that are over 4 months of age, are boarded, raised, bred, or cared for, non-veterinary, in return for, I hate this word, or offered for sale or kept for the purpose of or sale. So it is, I know. So it is just dogs or cats.
Thank you.
Rita Brownlee wishes to speak.
Go ahead.
Our properties are right across the street from this particular building, and just thinking about them having the dogs barking from that outside pen, possibly the odors, from the dogs themselves. If there's a large quantity there, I mean, they're calling it a doggy daycare, but they're also saying that dogs are going to be there at night. So, and, you know, they said, well, none of the neighbors will be there, but there's also that, you know, that they're going to happen to be there in the daytime. There's also going to be barking. And our property where we live is adjacent to this to the south also. So I'm not really too excited about having a lot of barking dogs close to any of those areas.
Do you live in your property to your south, or what is ran out of that property? And could you tell me
The
which
property's right, pardon me?
and is it the 606 address or the 612? I'm just looking at it on the map.
Both of those addresses, 606, 608, and the two buildings are owned by us, right across the street from the new one.
Which one do you live in, ma'am?
We don't live in those. We live to the south of that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just adjoining properties. I was just telling you that's where we live, and you know. But the two properties there, I mean, there's people there all day. Our tenants in there, I don't know that they wish to have dogs barking all day. And also, I'm more concerned probably about the odor with having a dumpster that's only dumped maybe once a week, like they said.
Mr. Chair? Could the applicant come up? Will the dogs be outside after 5 o'clock at night?
One time, I'm Melissa Rammel. We are the ones proposing the doggy daycare. The doggy daycare is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to, of course, have them outside more, Todd, when in the summer, you know. But after we close at 7, Kayla she'll be staying there. If there's dogs in the hotel, she's going to stay there till later in the evening. She'll probably let them out at 9 one time, then put them back in the.
I guess my point was they're not going to be running free
No.
from 7 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the
No,
morning.
not at all, sir. We're going to have them inside. And then also, if people are concerned about the odor, we're very careful with that. Everything will be bagged up. And, you know, everything's picked up and put in closed garbage cans. So, and looking into the waste, we researched for waste, and it's not considered a hazardous waste material, because if it was, we were going to look into doing that too.
And that doggy waste, doggy manure, whatever you call it, that's all allowed to be taken to the city landfill?
Yes, we've researched that, and it's not a hazardous material.
That's all I have, thank you.
I'll note too, as far as the dog barking, that would fall under the nuisance ordinance, and that if it did become, like anywhere in town, if somebody does have a dog that is barking excessively and it is a nuisance, then that can be handled by the police department.
One more
An
question,
animal
Mr.
control
Chair.
officer.
For Brandy, so the property is zoned I-1 light industrial, which in I-1 zones, we have those zones are there where we would have more intensive uses, where we would experience more noise, whether that be mechanical noise or dog noise, it's still noise, right?
Yep.
All right, thank
And
you.
we only allow commercial kennels to be by conditional use in the C3 or the I1 district. So, and that is just because of having, being aware of the sensitivity, and then having it be with like uses with potentially the noise aspect of it.
Brandy, so in my mind, no different than a vet clinic that's gonna board animals, large and small. What's the history, what's the zoning for, you know, a vet office, vet clinic that's gonna board animals? I'm assuming that's also C3 I1?
Yep, same thing, and I believe that it is by conditional use as well.
And any history of complaints from existing veterinary offices on boarding, dog barking?
None that I've experienced in my time here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
A maximum amount of animals that you're going to be able to care for?
Yes, for the hotel stay at night, which everybody's concerned with for noise, it's 12. During the day, when people drop off and pick up. The building space is gonna be big enough for about 60 dogs, Rhonda. But people are gonna be coming and going, you know, and dogs will be leashed until they get in the building, and then they will be leashed out of the building. So there shouldn't be any chance of any dogs getting away. There are gonna be locked gates on the outside play area. And because of what we've learned with regulations, you have to have between 70 to 100 square foot per dog off leash inside a building for them to have adequate play space. So that's why we're getting such a big area for those dogs, because we want to provide them the best quality playtime they can have when they're with us. So we're trying to provide a service for people that they don't want to leave their dogs home alone.
Mr. Chair.
So
So you're saying, you're designing this to meet like AKA standards, American Kennel Association standards, or
is that where the number came from, Kayla, was your American Kennel?
are there any associated state licenses that you have to have?
No, we're just kind of going by what the recommendations are of the boards, Todd.
Okay.
And to clarify, the veterinary clinic is allowed in the I-1 and C3 district as well, but by permitted use. So they don't need to come in front of the board.
Thank you. Are there any other questions that board members have for the applicant? Or I do know there was another person that wished to speak. They walked up and walked back, so I'll give them a chance.
Hi, my name is Jesse Nygaard, and I actually live right across the street from where this dog kennel is going to be at 714th Avenue Southeast, if Brandy wants to pull it up on the map. I just have a couple concerns. I mean, outside of the dogs barking, I get it, we live in an industrial area. We hear the gun range day and night from there. I mean, it's basically right across the street already. So if you add barking dogs on top of it, I know they're going to do their best to minimize that, but I mean, let's face it, they're dogs, right? That's what they do. I can give you one example. We have a lot of equipment that goes in and out of there daily. A lot of big trucks, semis, equipment, things like that. There was a gentleman that was over cleaning up all these cars that you see on the map here. He had a dog that was running around a lot. Anyways, come running across the street, my guys ran it over, ended the dog's life. What happens if a dog runs out of there and comes across the street? Unfortunately, who's liable for that? You know, that's just a safety concern I have, as well as I have two young boys that are outside there all the time. Actually, it's harder for me to keep them inside anymore than it is to keep them outside. Yes, we do have a fence in between the buildings where we try to keep our kids, and we do have a dog as well that stays inside there. So we're not against a doggy daycare or anything that they're trying to do. I actually think it's a really good idea. There's nothing like it in town. I just think maybe it's not the right spot for it. I guess that's all I really have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you for those comments. I don't know if we have any questions.
And there's nothing in ordinance as far as like the safety of like if an accident like that would happen, but I feel like that would end up being a business decision because they would have some upset pet owner then it might be something of like secondary containment or whatnot if a dog got off a leash or something, but nothing as far as ordinance goes that would require.
Brandy, can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
We do have leash ordinance, which would require pets to be on leashes, which Melissa already addressed, being in and out of the building will be on leashes.
Yep, and that would just be like in the event that one got off the leash, but yes, the pet should be leashed per ordinance.
Thank you for that, Jana. Are there any other comments or from anyone else in the public that wishes to speak on this item? Or anyone online that wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second from the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And then, is there any further discussion before we vote? I think I would just like to, give reason why how I'm gonna vote. I feel, and there are some concerns and there are some people that live in the area, but being as it is zoned I-1, this I-1 zoning is where our ordinance says that this is appropriate. And I do think the owner's gonna, do their best to, keep animals, contained and, inside when appropriate and on leashes when appropriate. And therefore, it's why I think it should be approved. Any other comments from board members?
I would note that I am also going to vote in favor of this motion, but to put the applicant on notice that if they do have nuisance complaints, that's something that you're going to have to deal with.
All right, hearing no further comments, I guess I'll ask for a roll call vote.
All right. Hanson,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Dolly.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Item 4B on the agenda is board consideration for a variance request located in the I-1 district on 10th Street. Brandy, will you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. So this property is owned by Hometown Properties, LLC. Let me get to it here. See, with the structure there on Highway 20 at 620 10th Street Southwest. So what they are applying for is a cold storage accessory structure, but they are asking for a side yard setback variance. And so in the I-1 district, which is light industrial, for an accessory structure, it needs to be 25 feet back from the side yard. This property has two fronts or front yards. So then these lot lines where the structure will be going are considered side yards. And so those are required to be 25-foot setback. The applicant is requesting a 2-foot side yard setback and a 2.5 foot side yard setback. So let me pull up the application here so you guys can see the site plan and the proposal. So you can see on the west side, they're asking for a 2-foot side yard setback, and then on the south side, asking for a 2.5 side yard setback. The cold storage accessory structure that is proposed will be, I believe, 5 feet from the existing warehouse building on the site. So you can see this is the sketch plan of the existing building here, and then the cold storage structure here. It'll be 7,735 square feet. They're with having that small of setbacks, I guess, for lack of better words. There are concerns with the access and maintenance to the perimeter of the structure, and then also there would be the requirement of having fire protection of a higher standard of a building for the building code. And so that would be having interior and exterior fire rated walls, and around any of the areas where it's within 10 feet of the property line or 10 feet of another building. And so this sketch somewhat shows that. I have to note that this is not all accurate because it's saying here it's only exterior. It would be interior and exterior. If approved and a building permit were applied for, we would look at this in depth between the building codes and the fire codes to make sure that the building was safe and to code. So with that, I will stand by for any questions that the board has.
Mr. Chair. Brandy, so to the south of this, those are railroad tracks, or?
Yes. And it actually is platted as an 18-foot alley, but
Is it being used for railroad purposes? No?
I'm honestly not sure.
I see someone shaking their head in the back, no, so, okay. Who owns that is that Burlington Northern that owns that property? Agworth. Has anybody, adjoining property owners, provided any comments or questions on the proposal?
Yes, go ahead, Jana.
Just general questions.
Thank you.
And I will open the public hearing. I see there's someone here to speak.
Since he's asking questions, I think I have the answers to. I thought it may be appropriate to come up here. So I'm Bill Riefenberger with Hometown Properties. So part of the proposal to use the space tighter there, you know, if I can give you a little bit of the business plan and why this is kind of important to us. First off, we do have the elevator, and those tracks are the elevators, but since we've been there, I've never seen a train on that track. So I don't know that there's anything being used, but obviously that's part of the reason to get closer is we're just adjoining up to a railroad track. But a number of issues I've got. First off, the whole business world is kind of out of sync here. I've got an inventory and buy product way more in advance of what I've normally had to, and I've got some pictures. If you can put this thumb drive, if you got a way to access that. Okay, well, anyway, that particular building that we're going to be joining to there, we call it our non-stock building, but that's windows, doors, all these cabinets, all these things that come in. Well, if you want to come out there, you'd be lucky to walk sideways to get between. It's completely bursting at the seams, which is really inefficient completely. And I can't store most of this stuff outside. And besides that, being by the elevator, we can't hardly store anything outside because we got all this corn dust on everything. So in order to keep things reasonably clean, open shed buildings don't work very good there, which we've inherited in the original property. And I have a plan over time to replace those. So currently the plan is to get this building and then the one adjoining to it, move the stuff into that, then tear that darn thing down, which is not built for today's business at all, and rebuild that and connect up. But we've had to go to our other property out on the highway for Designer Homes and use that whole building. And I did have pictures of that too. You can't walk in that building either, and that's supposed to be for staging products for the houses we're building, and we can't even use it for that anymore. And we've got a couple of the pod things that we are storing things in, so I have to get some buildings built. Currently the city power and gas comes through behind there, and we have to work with the utilities, and they're going to have to reroute those around the edge. So this 2 or 2.5 feet, depending on what they're going to need, we'll have to adjust accordingly. But anyway, that's the reason for needing that space. Is we just literally one of the comments was when we applied for that as well, you've got other property, how about putting the building someplace else? Well, we have close to a dozen semis a day come and go, and they need that other space for us to load, unload, and that we've also applied and got a couple years ago. Get a pointer, can I walk up to the picture up there? Oh, okay, let me use that. Right through here, this gate, we've got a approval from the state to get an exit only coming out there, so we can have the trucks come in this way, pull around, unload to this building, and then drive straight out, so we don't have to, we get all this congestion trying to back up and turn around and everything on there. There's roughly 3 acres of property there, but we have to be efficient with it as best we can, and all this extra space around the outside doesn't get us in tight storage. One of the other things is we're pretty much allowed to store stuff right up to the fence. So I can stack lumber and everything right up to the fence. I just currently can't have a building to that close. And we aren't aware of the fire issues, so as we get into that part of the building permit, if we need to do a concrete structure, precast or something else, we're more than willing to do what's going to need to be done there. So I don't feel that that's an issue in itself.
Hey, Bill, I was wondering, are you going to have a sprinkler system in there?
No, as long as we stay below 9,000 square feet, we don't need to have. It's a storage building. We've already checked about getting sprinkler, and we have a 6-inch line coming into our building now, and they told us we most likely would have to tear that out and put it, and that comes from the 10th Avenue. Or what's the one in front there? The Industrial Avenue, that comes in from that side, goes underneath our building. Well, if we had to tear that out, I'd literally have to bust up the floor through half the building. So no, I'm not planning on doing sprinkler.
How close is the building directly to the west of the proposed structure? Or it looks like, I don't know what that is, it's a
There's a playground fence
playground. Yeah, how close will that playground fence be in that area to the building?
So that is,
Is that the ICAP?
Yes.
yeah, and it's hard to tell with GIS
Roughly-
here because it
roughly.
looks like it's about right on the property line.
It's close,
fences
a couple of
can be.
feet.
So you're talking about 5 feet between the fence line and the building, more than likely?
Between,
Between the fence line of the playground and where the edge of the building would
probably, yeah,
about
something
5
like
feet.
that, yep.
Because you can see where like their property line is, where that fence is, and then where the ICAP playground fence is here. And so then that, I mean,
Is that a solid board fence or is that a chain link fence? What kind of fence is
about
that?
2 feet there.
That's a vinyl fence, I believe. It's a white vinyl fence.
And your fence is chain link.
Our fence is chain link,
Chain
but
link.
if I go that way, I would be inclined to use the building
As-
and get rid of the fence,
Okay.
because there would be no reason to have fence in a few feet. And some of that fence is pretty old and needs to be dealt with.
Okay, Bill, now, once you get if you get this building built, then you're going to tear down the one to the east?
Yes.
That skinny one, and you're going to match it all up together, so then the whole thing will be that close to the railroad tracks?
That would be my expectation that I would want to do, yes.
Okay.
And these Highline poles are underground now, correct?
No, there are still poles there. And we know we have to deal with what clearance we might have to have with that. But we do have to move, currently, right about where you got the pointer, that pole, I think, has got the transformer and the power comes around to the other building, circles, not over the lot line. That's where it's probably going to have to go. Right now, it goes alongside of that other old building. Gonna use your mouse there. Comes from something like this here around and over to here. And they're gonna have to reroute that, or we'll have to get a plan if we're gonna leave a space between here that we use that space. But either way, building would be over top, so they're gonna have to move that. And he just told me he's not sure that's gonna happen this year. Even if I get things going, we might not be able to get any building done.
So then the City of Watertown Utilities will be able to get between the railroad tracks and your building to take care of their maintenance or whatever to the power poles?
It's obviously, it's exposed completely from the railroad track side. There's all kinds of room over there. And then if you want to talk to that, we have somebody here from the utilities.
Is it Bert?
Take over her chair.
Bert, has the utilities looked at this? Do they have concerns, questions regarding what's being proposed? And
You know, we looked at it real briefly, not more than just a few hours ago. So, like Bill is saying, he is correct. There's a gas line that runs through there, and there's 2 electric lines that go there that he's going to have to bear the cost to relocate it all. As for that power line, that is correct, where you can kind of see the extra shadows where the transformer is. That's where that service comes off. But if you go further to the east, there's another pole there. Could very easily just move the transformers on that, come around. and then go that way. If his ultimate plan is to have this cold storage building put up, tear down that other small narrow building and then add back onto it.
Yes.
You know, having that little corridor in between is just going to be a total waste of money because you're going to have to relocate it again when you attach the building. So it would be best if we just went all the way around with the gas. The gas actually starts way over to the east side as well. So you're probably looking at 350 foot of gas line you got to put in, reroute that power, and we'll probably get rid of one of those poles or something like that. I'd have to look at it a little bit more closely. My map doesn't really show the overhead stuff as much as the underground. We would just have to figure it out.
So one of the reasons I want to get this kind of whole planning process, we've just put in a whole new drainage system through there, and we got to get concrete put in, but I don't want to put all this concrete in and then we have to cut through all of that too. So we're trying to plan ahead, but as everybody kind of knows anymore, that everything just drags on, and there's one thing or another. So I'm trying to get this process planned out a little bit.
Have you talked to your neighbors, Bill, to the south, if they have any grand design schemes of using that narrow property where those railroad tracks are, or if they were to, you know, I think probably the biggest concern is that if you're gonna be 2 feet off the property line, and then the neighbor to the south decides they wanna build a building 2 feet off the property line, and now we've got buildings that are only 4 feet apart, even if they're built to fire code. It's kind of, it becomes those questions like, well, what should our standard be?
The only conversation we've had is that building that's there now is empty, and we contacted them about purchasing that.
Okay.
They weren't interested in purchasing it, but they were interested in leasing it. They're not using that building currently. Was their fertilizer, which they've moved out. So currently there's nothing on that corner that they're doing. Doesn't mean that I don't know what their future plans are, but that's the only discussion we've had with them is in terms of, rather than a quick fix, could we rent that bill or actually buy that? I don't really want to rent it, quite honestly. I wanted to buy it. If I bought it, I'd want to get the tracks out of the way so I could drive through there, but that wasn't an option.
Hey, Bill, what I was wondering, since you're going to have an exit just north of the daycare, not daycare, but ICAP.
Yep.
Are you going to have a chain link fence from the new building all the way to the driveway to avoid an accident or?
Well, currently
you know?
their playground is all fenced in already.
Yeah, but what I'm wondering is to avoid the trucks and stuff kind of going onto their land, and what would happen because of the parking and stuff, and things could happen really fast for protection. And for your protection too, put up a fence along there.
Well, first off, I find out I could put a fence a certain part. I'm not sure if I could take it all the way out to the highway either for obstruction wise. We would be driving on our property. There is quite a difference in elevation there. Their property goes uphill on that spot too.
Oh, okay.
And any truck pulling out of there, obviously, they're not going. It's not a drive, and they're going to pull up on load, so they shouldn't be driving any kind of speed at any kind. And we've asked that to be particularly just an exit only, because just for the traffic flow in the business, we don't really want anybody coming in and out. We would expect to put an electric gate on there that just be closed all the time, and then when they need to come out.
I appreciate that. I didn't know there was an elevation.
Yeah.
I just didn't look close enough.
Okay,
Sorry
no,
about
well,
that.
you can't see that on a map of it,
Yeah.
you know,
But
this
okay,
type
that's
of a
good.
map.
But I like the electric gate too.
Okay.
The public hearing is open. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor or against this item?
Guess I should have called ahead about that. Sorry, I had some pictures. I just assumed we could plug in a thumb drive or whatever, but no. I've got them on my phone if you want to pass them around on my phone.
Brandy, did we hear anything back from any of the adjacent landowners on this one?
As Jana had said, that there were inquiries, just general questions.
So I guess just to clarify, once this building is put up 2 feet off the property line in each direction, then you intend to come to the east that whole length, and you'd want it to be 2 feet off the property line the whole way, right?
2.5.
Yeah.
Currently, that's obviously going to be, I imagine that would require me to come back again on that one also, but currently in my mind, that's what I would like to do. We haven't got a final plan on that, but that would make the most sense for us, yes.
Okay.
And
And part of that, if I can use your mouse again, on this end over here, if we could get these buildings somewhat connected, because we know we have some firewall issues we had to deal with there, but then I could get where I could back a semi and we could put a recess where I can get forklift in, because right now when we unload cabinets and everything gets taken down off the back of the truck, so this whole process is gonna take a while to get done, but this,
Brandy, what's the width of that lot with the railroad tracks in it?
Right, that's 18 feet.
So I couldn't really build anything on that lot anyway and meet any sort of front, side, or rear yard setbacks.
No,
The only way that would happen is I'd have to meld it into a lot to the south and replat or something along those lines.
right, and that's what I was gonna touch on too. I wanted to elaborate that it exists as an alley today, so it's a right of way, and so it would need to be vacated, so then each property owner would get 9 feet. Each adjacent property owner gets half of it. And so at least that would, it allows for access on that south side currently, because it is an alley, although the tracks are in the way of having like good access. But they at least would have the space to access it, because, in a residential, like when we created the R1C district, we wanted to have 6 foot and 9 foot side yard setbacks, just so then a vehicle could get around on the private property. And I think that is an important aspect for maintenance.
So I'm gonna go back. This platted lot is owned by Agritech, but it's platted, it's a public right of way.
Yes.
Oh, this makes it a lot easier.
I lost the building this spring or this summer.
It has not been vacated.
Build another steel building to replace it.
Is somebody?
Could you mute that on Teams or whatever that is?
To get a building.
Let's see. Let's go to
Okay. All right. I'll call one more time if there's anyone
I
else
got it,
from the
Brandy.
public
Oh. Okay.
that
thank you.
wishes to speak in favor or against this item. Please come to the mic. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion in a second.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the finding for the variance stipulating that due to the alley to the south, which is, you can't build on it anyway, there's 18 feet and another 2 feet is only 20 and a half feet from the adjoining property to the south. If that property would have a 5 or 10 foot setback, there'd be at least 30 feet between any proposed long-range structures being there. And so that would be a justification in my mind to allow this variance where I'm not opening up the door for I-1 zoning having 2 foot side yard setbacks.
Second.
Quick question. Can we amend that to say the interior and exterior are firewalls just because of ICAP being there?
That's
have
with the staff report,
Okay.
I would say, yeah.
They have to be, and that wouldn't be a condition that we would expect for the side yard setback variance. That's just in our review that they have to meet code. So
Right.
Since I seen our friendly little firefighter walk in the door, is there, hey Adam, is there that approved, that was all, it passed through them too?
yes.
Okay, good.
Yep,
Thanks.
and he did a thorough review, and he will do another thorough review when we get a building permit application.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I will call for a vote.
All right, Dolly,
No.
Kays,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Hanson,
yes.
Motion passes
6-1.
6-1. Fifth item on the agenda is open public comment. Is there anything not on the agenda that someone from the public?
None that I have received.
I'll move on to item 6, new business. Do we have any new business?
No.
Item 7 is old business. Any old business?
Nope.
Number 8, motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. We will start the Board of Plan Commission shortly.